Hey guys, welcome to the BJJ Collaborative. Today we have Gina from APEX Nutrition here. Gina, thank you so much for coming on.
Of course, I'm happy to be here.
All right, so first I just wanted to say why, one of the biggest reasons I want to have you on is you worked with a couple of our athletes and I saw the changes in them. But before we get into all that, I want to discuss why did you choose the profession of nutrition? What drove you to this field?
It took me a little while to kind of get to where I am now. I went to school, got my first bachelor's in psychology, and I was kind of figuring out what I wanted to do. I was thinking nursing, physical therapy, kind of dabbled in both and wasn't in love with either of them. But I also on the side found myself like doing a lot of things with fitness. So I got my CrossFit level 1. I was working in a gym for a long time on the side, and I really found myself loving that. So I kind of knew that I wanted to do something in healthcare, but then also something with fitness. And then the more I got into CrossFit, the more I realized how important fueling properly is for performance and recovery and everything. So I was actually going back to school to take some prerequisites for physical therapy, and I got into a nutrition class, and I decided while I'm taking these prereqs, let me get a degree in nutrition. It's super interesting, and then I'll kind of have that on the side and then go with physical therapy. Well, once I started really taking the nutrition classes, I ditched the idea of physical therapy, and I learned more about professions, becoming a registered dietitian. I don't think I really knew that profession existed before. So I was like, this is exactly what I want to do. So I just rolled with it. I graduated my second degree in nutrition in 2020. And now I'm in my dietetic internship. So that's a 1,200-hour supervised dietetic internship that you need to take to sit for the boards, like the registered dietitian boards. So it took me a little longer to figure out what I wanted, but it all worked out perfectly.
So when you do an internship, do you have somebody there as a mentor, or is it, so how does that work?
Yeah, so it's completely supervised. There's 4 different rotations. You have a clinical, so that's going to be in the hospital, a nursing home, something of that setting. You have a food service, which it could be in like a restaurant or a college dining hall, something like that. And then you have a community, which I did with a private practice registered dietitian, and the one I'm in right now is a sports nutrition concentration. So the internship that I chose had offered this sports nutrition concentration, and that's what really drew me to this internship. So right now I'm working with professional athletes for the next 6 weeks.
Oh, that's good, right?
Yeah.
Is that what you want to do, is focus on athletes?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, so speaking of that, so I know you through your boyfriend, soon-to-be husband.
Hopefully.
Maybe. I might jump in the gun.
Waiting for it.
Yeah, so Alex trained with us when he was a kid, came back as an adult, and he heard me talking about getting a nutritionist for some of our athletes. So there was 2 athletes that you worked with that really, everything you told them to do, they did. And I could see the transformation of both these students, not only physically, but on the mat performance-wise, and even the not to sound too crazy, but even the mental alertness of being on the mat, and when it's time to hustle, they were going.
Yeah.
And one student, always here, trains 5-6 days a week, if not more, always going to the gym, but he was walking around like 200 pounds. Now, I want to say this morning he was here, he's 172 pounds, and he's talking about dropping to a 168 bracket.
Yep.
And he is shredded. That's Curtis.
Yeah, he's doing awesome.
Yeah, and then we had Jimmy, who already was in really good shape, but without a doubt, he definitely physically toned up more, but I could see his performance is through the roof right now, and he goes.
Yep.
And so let's talk about that. So somebody like that with like Curtis, where he's in here, he's training, he's doing everything in and out of the gym. What was it like what did you have to do with transforming the diet? Because there's so many different things. I've been into like fitness and training since I was 16. At around 18, 19, I met my brother-in-law, who was a bodybuilder, and he was saying, hey, listen, the weight training aspect, you kind of have, you're doing okay, but your diet's way off. And I didn't realize how much protein I wasn't getting. At that time, it was something to the effects of try to have 1.5 grams of protein per lean body pound, but this was more for bodybuilding, not so much for overall physical performance as an athlete. The carbs I didn't count, didn't care, I was young. But some of the so what were some of the things you had to consider with the wear and tear of whether it be a jiu-jitsu athlete or just a practitioner? Because let's face it, even when you're just a practitioner and a martial artist, you want to perform to the best of your ability all the time.
Yeah.
So what were some of the things you had to do with, say, Curtis, for example?
So I mean, with every person that I meet with, I kind of go over, like what their nutrition looks like currently.
Yep.
And then make tweaks based on that. So Curtis, some different approaches I have, he chose counting macros.
Okay.
So counting macros is basically a more specific way to count calories.
Okay.
But it's really good for athletes because proteins, carbs, and fats all play a different role, especially when it comes to our performance and recovery. So Curtis, we decided to count macros, so I figured out his proteins, his carbs, and his fats, and he just caught on like that. Like, there was not really even any explaining. It was just, here's your numbers, and he was like, got it, and he just rolled with it. And we've made increases. We've actually increased calories up, and you were saying he's down to like 172 now. And we've been increasing. And actually today you said you wanted to start that, go into that lower weight class. So he's 6 weeks out from it. So we just started a 6-week cut to get him to that weight class. So Curtis really goes by numbers. He's into, like counting the macros, which is an easier way when we're trying to like make weight classes or kind of like control weight, because it's just more that you can like control with these numbers.
Now, do you have to, like, what would again, in saying his situation now, saying 172, what would be the protein goal a day?
So I have him on 170 grams of protein. It's pretty much
roughly 1 gram per body pound.
Or if you are looking to lean up a little bit, it'll be per desired pound. So I'm going to keep him at 170.
Yeah.
But,
so you were saying if he was bulking up, you would say, okay, take 200 grams.
Yeah. Or like if he was, say, 250 pounds and he wanted to get to 170, I'd have him at 170 grams.
Okay. So that part hasn't changed too much, right?
No, it's pretty, I mean, like 1 gram per pound is a pretty good kind of like formula to use for that.
And now what about fats? Because again, like showing my age or whatever, but it was always like, low fat this, low fat that. More and more you're just finding like, no, healthy fats are good, fats are okay. So what would be healthy fats? What are for energy? Like what do you introduce for fats?
Like what sources?
Yeah.
So you want mainly you want unsaturated fats. So that's going to be avocados, olive oil, nuts, seeds. The more saturated fats, those are going to be a little bit less like heart healthy. We don't want tons of our fat sources coming from like cheeses, creams, high fat dairy. So you really want to focus on the majority of your fats should come from the unsaturated fats. So.
Now, when you look at like his plan, do you assess like, okay, how many days a week are you training, whatever it is, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu?
Yep.
How many days a week are you going to the gym? What type of exercises are you doing? Like, is that how you assess the diet as well?
Yeah, I mean, I just look at.
Or you just go by, hey, what's your goal?
Activity level. Each sport's going to differ a little bit, but for the most part, it's pretty much just activity level, and then we really dial in kind of like that intra workout nutrition depending on the sport that you're in. So like these guys here, there will be days that they're rolling for like 2 or 3 hours.
Yeah.
Now we're going to look at specifically how to fuel for 2 to 3 hours of training.
Okay.
But other than that, I mean, it's pretty, people love to overcomplicate nutrition.
Yeah.
And in reality, it's like, let's just look at the average energy that you're expending, the average energy that you're consuming, and kind of figure it out there.
Okay. Yeah, you're right. It does seem like, I think just like anything, it becomes a huge business with marketing. So there's all these fad diets. People want to overcomplicate it. There's just so much. I think one of the big fad diets right now in jiu-jitsu is like fasting,
Yeah.
Or, before that it was something else. It's always something, just like techniques in jiu-jitsu. Like, oh, this is the hot technique, and it goes in circles, or like waves, like almost like clothing fashion or something.
Yeah.
But so that kind of being said is, as far as the diet, in all that, like fasting and or like when I was kind of really into it, it was eat small meals, have 6 small meals a day, have your protein separated in those meals. What do you, first, is that still relevant? Do you still do it in small meals like that? Is that still like the old theory of throwing wood on the fire, you keep it burning, so you're always going to be burning, or?
Yeah, so I mean, I think that theory kind of goes for, like keeping our blood sugars steady.
Okay.
So a lot of times, what people will do is, we kind of want our blood sugars to just go like this all day. And that happens from, consuming food throughout the day. A lot of people will, have consuming balanced meals throughout the day, really. A lot of times people will have a meal, not a balanced meal, so it could just be like a bagel. Going to shoot their blood sugar up.
Yep.
Now they're going to be like super hyper, and then you're going to get that crash. And that's what we kind of want to avoid. Okay. So then it's like your crash, now you're like fatigued, you're tired, and then you need something to bring it back up again. Yeah. And that's kind of what, like the path that you don't want.
Okay.
So instead, if we can kind of, like you said, kind of just have balanced meals throughout the day, that's going to keep us from like getting hyperactive, crashing, getting hyperactive and crashing. Because that's not a fun way to spend the day.
Yeah, yeah.
When when your blood sugar drops, I'm sure that you felt that before. You're like shaky, you're sweaty, you're anxious.
Yeah, yeah.
If we can just prevent that from happening all around, then that's the goal, and that's really done by kind of eating just throughout the day.
So would you say then the current trend of this, like a fasting, everybody, I fast, I this, I that, and I'm like, yeah, I fast too every time I go to bed.
Exactly. That's exactly what I say.
But so do you? It's not a good idea.
I'm not
for
a fan
an
of
athlete.
fasting. No, because then you're just setting these rules for what around the day and around eating, and I don't think that that's really conducive to your training. So say, I don't know what, like say you're fasting all day and then you're training. Now you're training completely fasted.
Yeah.
Which is not going to help your performance.
Yeah.
So I think that fasting is honestly just another fancy way to make a rule so you can say, people love like black or white. Like I'm on this, I'm not on that, or I can eat this, I can't eat that, or I can eat at this time, I can't eat at that time. When in reality, it's like, we don't need all these rules. Let's just,
Also, sometimes when you make those rules, it almost seems harder.
Yeah.
Like, I won't eat junk food, that much at all. And then if I say, okay, I'm going to do a tournament, a competition, I got to be this weight, whatever. Next thing I know,
you're craving.
Yeah, you're craving it. You're trying to get more. Yeah, it's funny how that happens. That's so strange.
Because we want what we can't have.
Yeah.
So, and that's why I'm a big fan of like not cutting anything out. And people think that that's crazy until I kind of explain why. Like if I tell you right now, you cannot have chocolate, say, for the next 60 days, you're gonna crave chocolate.
Yeah.
But instead it's like, all right, I'm craving chocolate, I'm gonna have a little piece and then move on.
Yeah.
Instead of I restrict it, I then have like 6 pounds of chocolate, and now I'm like, oh, I feel so sick.
Yeah.
And it's just that cycle, you know?
So definitely small meals still good. So we talked about protein, like a gram per body pound.
Yeah.
Depending on what your goals are,
yeah,
right?
For the most part.
But so how would that work with like carbs? Again, carbs was something I just knew, hey, I want to gain weight, I took a ton of carbs. I want to lose weight, I just start cutting some out.
Yeah.
What is the more calculated, I should say, I guess, approach to that? Like, is there, is it it's kind of the same theory? I need X amount of carbs for my body weight, or even the other thing, like greens. I'm the guy who I look at carbs and protein, and I push the greens to the side, and if I'm still hungry, I eat it.
Yeah.
And then I had a friend who's a student of mine many years ago, who was a trainer, phenomenal athlete, great diet all the time, and he was saying, no, you should eat that first.
Yeah.
So what is like? So what's the deal with that as far as carbs, and then also your vegetables, like?
Yeah, so when I am figuring out somebody's overall calorie needs, I'll figure out their calorie needs, and there's equations to do that.
Yep.
And that's just looking at like their age, their height, their weight, their goals, their activity levels. There are a bunch of factors go into this equation. Once I figure out their calorie needs, I'll then figure out their protein needs.
Okay.
And like I said, that's usually about a gram per pound. And then the rest of the calories are going to be split between carbs and fats.
Okay.
And that can be personal preference. So, like there are some of my clients follow a stay within calories and hit protein and let carbs and fats fall where they do.
Okay.
But I do find that with athletes, getting adequate carbohydrates is so important. So usually I'll keep fat to like 25 to 30% of overall calories, and then the rest of that's going to be filled with carbohydrates.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it's more like percentages as opposed to
Yeah.
some straight number, I guess.
Yeah, pretty much. But again, it's going to be different for everybody. If I have somebody coming to me that came from a very high fat diet and not a ton of carbs, we might start them a little bit on the higher side of fat to kind of adjust their body, and then kind of like increase carbs as we go and see what works for them. It's all about finding what works for the athlete.
Okay. Yeah, so because everybody's a little different, I might burn more, somebody else might hold more.
Yeah. And some people just might feel better on, like a little bit higher carbs or a little bit higher fat. It's all about really just finding what works for them. So
before we started recording, we were having a conversation, and we were talking about like the fasting, like these crazes, just like anything else. And I think they say supplements and diets are probably one of the biggest money makers out there, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, you could go to, I don't know if people go to Barnes & Nobles anymore, but you could go to Barnes & Nobles and have 1,000 books on diet.
So many.
So, what do you think? Is that truly just marketing and or is it because you also said, well, it is always changing, but does it change that drastic, or is it truly just like any other business that is trying to crank up more business, like weight training, CrossFit's the new thing, or this thing's the new thing, or that's is it kind of like that where it's a little more, one, you have to find something you enjoy, obviously, if you're going to do it.
Yeah.
But is it kind of like that where they're trying to market to build a business, or is it?
I think that a lot of the books that are there are a ton of diet books out there. And those, I always say if there's, if somebody is promoting that you need to buy a supplement in order for this to work, or you need to cut out a food group, or things like that, and that's what a lot of people write books on. That's probably not going to work in the long term.
Yeah.
And that's probably a red flag. So I do think that people just like to jump to the next best thing because nothing works because people just diet hop.
Yeah.
When in reality, it's let's just learn habits. You don't need a book to maybe hire a coach, but you don't need a book to learn how to, create habits and eat balanced meals, because you're probably not going to find that in a book because it's not fancy.
Yeah. And so much is routine, right? I say that with jiu-jitsu, with weight training. I'm very regimented. I'm a routine person. So the weight training and training jiu-jitsu is easy. Yeah. The times of eating food, easy, because I'm very regimented. But then it comes down to, well, now what are you eating? Yeah. So another thing we were talking about before we started recording is I was big into weight training for the purpose of gaining weight, for bodybuilding, and then I saw my martial arts, kind of decline my performance. So I, started going back. But because of doing that for so many years, I tend to always kind of revert back to that out of routine. But so. I guess what I'm trying to get at is so if the it's more of just assessing what your end goal is, right? Not so much stepping on the scale, not so much looking in the mirror, right? Because it's that thing
especially
of you see yourself all the time. You're not going to see changes.
And you're going to be your worst critic. You're going to be it looks like your body did not change overnight. Your mindset, your mentality changed. But especially here, or these sports that require good performance in order to do well, the scale weight and things like that are not as accurate of a measurement as how are you performing?
How do you feel?
Is your performance going up? How are you feeling? How are you recovering? That's way more important in a sport like this or other performance-based sports than, the scale or something like that. Of course, unless you're making weight.
Yeah, you want to make sure,
But that's again, a temporary phase, and then we want to, start fueling again to perform well.
So that being said too, what you said about the books, maybe they're pushing an agenda for a supplement or something. 100% true. I remember reading Flex magazine. Nowadays, you go online and you look at whatever, and 95%, if not all of it, is literally a big infomercial to push different things.
Yep.
So when I was younger, it was like, oh, take this style of protein, do this style of carb, try this, try that, whatever. How do you feel about supplements? So, again, I take protein drinks, I take aminos before I train jiu-jitsu. Obviously vitamins, multivitamins, fish oil. I take stuff from my joints. What are your feelings with that? Because, a part of me, like if you watch any of these documentaries like Bigger, Faster, Stronger, and you see somebody can literally in a basement make a supplement, slap a label on it and sell it.
Yeah.
And you go, geez, it's not FDA regulated. I
None of
have
them
no
are.
idea what I'm getting.
Yep.
What is your feeling on that? Because as somebody that just wants to train and be the best you can be,
Yep.
you feel like, I'm going to do all these things, especially like getting older, my joints, whatever. I want to be in the game.
Yeah.
What do you feel about that?
Like you just said, supplements, like anybody can make it and just put a label on it and
Yeah.
say this is
Scary.
it, and this is what it promotes, and people just see what it promotes and they're like, I'm sold, I'm in.
Yeah.
But I'm not a big supplement fan. The supplements that I would probably recommend, the most researched ones are going to be protein powder, creatine, electrolytes.
Yep.
Those are probably fish oil.
Yeah.
Those are probably the
No
four
aminos?
supplements.
You're not into the amino thing?
If you're getting adequate protein,
You don't need
they're
it.
essentially pretty useless.
Yeah.
So amino acids only contain 3 of the essential amino acids out of 9. So if
Okay.
you're eating complete protein sources, that has all 9 amino acids. So
It doesn't
always-
assist with like the breaking down of the protein or
if
recovery
you're eating
or
enough protein,
you
which
don't-
I'd rather you have ample protein,
yeah.
it's just pretty much expensive flavor
Flavored
enhancers.
drink. Yeah, flavored drink, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Flavored water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's another one though, like they sell it like that. Like they
Yeah.
sell like you need this for
Oh yeah.
and
Smack a cool label on it, put somebody on there who's jacked and everybody wants
Yep.
to buy it.
I was like, I don't look like that.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So, I'm not a big supplement fan. I'm a big fan. Even a multivitamin, if there's a reason why you are not eating certain food groups or if you have an allergy or something, maybe supplementing with a multivitamin would be a good idea. But again, I always recommend eating a variety of foods. Like, let's get these nutrients through foods. They're going to do more for us than getting it through a pill.
Okay.
So I always, say like, don't restrict things you don't need to. Eat a variety of whole grains, fruits, veggies, dairy, protein, and switch it up a little bit. And that's another thing with a lot of these diets. It's like these meal plans are eating the same thing every day for weeks. And it's like, you're not getting a variety of food, meaning you're not getting a variety of nutrients. So I think supplements are exactly what they're supplementation.
Yeah.
They're not to be
In place
to fill,
of.
yes, exactly.
Yeah, that's well said.
Yeah.
What about foods that are good for your like joint health, maintenance, anti-inflammatory? Jiu-jitsu's, especially gi Brazilian jiu-jitsu, it can be tough on your hands, breaking grips, your knees, your neck, shoulders, all that. Just like any other combat sport or sport out there.
Yeah.
What are some good food sources naturally that you don't have to take these like glucosamine, chondroitin, spend $100 on a bottle?
Yeah. I'll recommend a fish oil for joint health. And then there's been some research showing that turmeric can decrease inflammation, so maybe try adding turmeric to food. Other than that, it's really just getting a variety of food sources with a lot of antioxidants, like your fruits and your veggies. And
so that'd be like, I heard black cherry juice. Is that legit?
Tart cherry juice.
Yeah.
Tart. There's a lot of research out on tart cherry juice. In aiding athletic recovery and also helping with sleep, helping produce melatonin. The research on that is rising and it's pretty interesting. So I've actually had a lot of my clients try that for both and have seen good success with both sleeping and athletic recovery.
Yeah, because I tried that years ago. I would go to a natural food store and get black cherry juice, and it was like take a teaspoon a day, mix it with water.
Yeah.
And I just kind of fell off. But it's sometimes when you're taking a bunch of stuff, you're like, is this working? Is it placebo?
Yeah, exactly.
It's
it's worth it to try though, and especially more research keeps coming out on it. So That's what you really have to look for. When you're looking to take something, like look at the research. Don't just look up Google searches on, I mean, people, like we said, are trying to sell things.
Yeah.
Like, look up scientific studies on, you know, when was this used? What was it used for? What were the results? And that's going to kind of help guide you better than just an article written by somebody who's trying to sell something.
Big marketing ad.
Yeah.
So you mentioned earlier you are now working with a professional hockey team. So you have some competitors here. Mm-hmm. You're working with a professional hockey team, and you said you had what else going on? You're working with a lot of athletes?
Yeah, so a lot of my clients are athletes. I have a lot of CrossFit athletes. I'm doing this internship with professional hockey players, a lot of jiu-jitsu people, and then I just have some people that
want
are
to get in shape and be healthy.
Yeah. But I love working with athletes. Like that's what I think I'm going to start really gearing towards is I just love like performance nutrition.
Yeah.
Like eating to perform and to recover and you know.
There's nothing cooler than when somebody listens to the advice and then starts succeeding.
Exactly.
I mean,
and I find that athletes do that like a lot.
They'll do the grind.
Yep.
Yeah, 100%.
A lot of other people just want a quick fix. They're like, I'm hiring a coach so it'll fix it. And it's like, you still have to put in the work. But athletes are already used to putting work in. So it's...
they have the work ethic for it.
Exactly.
It's funny, so I was mentioning this to you earlier too off camera, but where... one of the mornings, I don't know if it was Jimmy or Curtis, but like right before class, they opened up a Rice Krispie treat. And I looked over and I'm like, what the hell? He's eating a Rice Krispie treat before class? And he's, oh yeah, Gina said. And I'm like, well, she said it, let's do it.
Yeah.
And then I started noticing other students were like, I could do that diet. So I'm like, she's gonna get 100 calls because now I can eat a Rice Krispie treat. But what's the idea behind that? Just an insulin spike before training because it's like nothing carbs and you're gonna burn it?
Well, so ideally right before training, and I always recommend Rice Krispie treats, and people think I'm crazy. People are like, Rice Krispie treats? And it's like, yes, because right before training, and I don't recommend Rice Krispie treats for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Yeah, I mean, you're not going to eat it and then go to bed.
Exactly. You want to have some type of quick carbohydrate, I always say within 60 minutes and in that intra workout window. So these people that are working out for 3 hours, you want to have those quick, simple carbohydrates that can instantly just, you eat it and it's absorbed into your bloodstream and used as energy, rather than something like oats or a whole grain with a lot of fiber that's going to take a long time to break down and then release into energy. Instead, you want those sugary foods that people deem as bad. That's ideal for having right before a workout and in the middle of your workout. So I'll recommend like Rice Krispies or full sugar Gatorade or gummy bears, fruit snacks, things like that. Yeah,
it's funny. I used to do 100% oatmeal before, like an hour or so before training, thinking like, oh, that will help. Or I would take eggs, put it with oatmeal, throw it in the microwave so you have egg whites and oatmeal. Nowadays, I'm on this thing, and I've been doing this for years, and a lot of it is just I'm tired of like the force feeding thing. It's just frozen fruit, some greens, and protein powder. And I feel okay, but is that enough to push through? Say I have it at 8 o'clock, I train at 10, and then I lift afterwards. Is that enough to kind of push through, or what do you think? Or is that...
So you're like working out for what, 2 hours?
Well, you figure, I teach for a half hour, so I'm only grappling probably a half hour. And then I weight train for about an hour.
Okay. I would say, I mean, how much fruit are you getting? Like a cup?
Yeah, probably about a cup.
It's probably not
enough.
I would say a cup of fruit's probably, maybe 30 grams of carbs.
So I used to add oatmeal, and then I started pulling that out.
Yeah. I mean, because oatmeal is going to take longer to digest and probably isn't going to be that comfortable to be working out on. So, I mean, if you like having that in the morning, don't take it out. Have it. You enjoy it. But maybe before you start grappling and before you start lifting, have like a Rice Krispie treat or a Gatorade or something just to give you that boost, because I always say it's you're fueling your performance. So if you're working out fasted or with really no fuel, you're not going to really be able to give as much. Instead, it's like if you're giving your body a quick energy source, you're going to be able to push more through that workout.
So you're having a better quality workout as opposed to just checking in the attendance card, going through the motions, and not kind of being present and alert.
Yeah, and that's the thing with like the Rice Krispie treat. People are like, well, won't I gain weight if I have a Rice Krispie treat? And it's like, if you're using it in this window, your body's going to use this as energy right away. You're going to, in turn, like get a better workout, burn more because you can give more.
Now, the protein absorption, is it still that theory of like after you have a hard workout, you should get it like, what was it, 20 or 30 minutes?
Yeah, like
Is that
anabolic
still
window.
true?
There's mixed research on that. More research lately has been showing that an hour or two.
You're good.
And some research even says more, like up to 4 hours. I always say if you can eat within 2 hours, then no need for a supplementation or a shake or anything. But if you're gonna really go above 2 hours on that, probably would be a
Get
good idea
something.
to get that shake in. And if that shake's not gonna interfere with your appetite, then go for having the shake on the way home from the gym, as
Yeah,
long as you
yeah.
can eat a real meal when you get
Yeah,
home.
you don't want it to hinder and then you eat less
Exactly.
real food.
Exactly.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
So Gina, what else do you have going on? You have a podcast, right?
I do.
How do people find you on that?
So it's called Road to Fueling Better. I'm doing it with one of my friends who's a dietitian also. So you can look it up on Spotify. Podcast, like the Apple. It's on like 6 different platforms. I don't know all the platforms.
Yeah.
But yeah, we release a new episode every Monday, and it's just the name kind of explains it. Road to Fueling Better.
Yeah.
So fueling better, feeling better, performing better, recovering better. Just kind of, yeah, just it's performance and lifestyle based, really.
Which is huge, right? It's all, if it's not a part of your lifestyle, it's not going to be a part of that routine. Right?
Exactly.
It all has to be that crazy routine. You kind of, I
Yeah.
almost feel like you got to be a little nutty to kind of follow a routine that
Yeah.
strict, right? And then it's easier to keep doing it,
Exactly.
But so where else, like how else can people get a hold of you? If somebody sees this and they want to work with you,
Yep.
how do they get a hold of you? How do they track you down?
So you can find me on Instagram. The handle is apex__nutrition. You can send me a message there, or you can go to my website, apexnutritionri.com, and send me a message there, and it'll go into my emails.
All right, perfect.
Yeah, so.
So now it's everything is online. There's not they don't go meet you at some brick and mortar place. It's all online.
No, so I'll do, if the person is local and they want to meet up, then we can meet at a coffee shop or something for an initial consult. I always do an initial consult where I do meet face-to-face with them, whether it's in person if they're local and want to, or through FaceTime or Zoom or something like that. Once we have the initial consult, then it's all through text message or email from there, like the check-ins and
okay.
everything. So, yeah.
That's good. Yeah, I know the guys love working with you.
I love working with them.
Yeah, and again, I can't say enough how much I've seen just those two completely change. Not even performance, appearance, mindset. The proof of when they go to competitions, they're killing it.
Yeah.
And but the big takeaway too is I don't want people to think, just competitors. No, if you want to be the best you can just be for fun of training martial arts and training jiu-jitsu, you can't overlook the diet. Like my brother-in-law used to say to me, again, he kind of taught me the ropes with lifting weights was, listen, training is the easy part. Lifting weights, you love to do it. Training jiu-jitsu, that's easy.
It's an hour of the day.
Yeah, it's the nutrition that is the rest of the day. And can you get all the stuff in? And are you doing it properly? And
Yep.
For me, even to this day, I feel like it's not so much, I'm not eating clean. It's, am I eating the right stuff at the right time?
Right.
Am I still, was the 6 meals a day still relevant? Because
Yeah.
you're hearing all this new stuff, like I said, with the fasting.
Yep.
So it gets a little confusing, trying to still stay current with the times changing on, nutritional information.
Yeah. I always just say if something is very complicated, it's probably not a good idea because it's not going to be sustainable. It's like it shouldn't be super complicated. It's all about finding a system that works for you and making it in turn become easy, because if it's not going to be easy and convenient, you're not going to stick with it. Of course you need to put effort in. It's not going to just be effortless and easy, but like you said, getting into that routine and just finding a system that works well for you that you can bring with you on vacation or here. I know Curtis went on vacation.
Yeah.
And I don't think he gained a pound.
No. He came back hungry as ever and still murdering people.
Yeah. So it just goes to show it's learning skills that you can take with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's great.
Yeah.
Gina, thank you so much for
Of
coming.
course.
Thank you for the information.
Of course.
So guys, check out Gina APEX Nutrition. Guys, before we go, the man behind the camera, Robbie Grenades. Real quick, where did grenades come from, Robbie? Why Robbie Grenades? I asked Jimmy this morning, and I said, is it because he was blown up overseas and it's some weird joke on himself? Robbie Grenades? What is the grenades? Where'd that come from?
Kind of, yeah. It was my call sign.
Oh, okay. So guys, if you don't know, Robbie is the man behind the camera, Robbie Grenades. How do they check you out, Robbie, to get to know you, to get involved with, if they want to hire you for photography or anything? Where do they go to find you?
You can check out robbiegrenades.com or at robbiegrenades on Instagram.
Excellent, guys. Check out my man, Robbie Grenades. Gina, thank you so much. It was
Of
great.
course.
Thank you. Guys, go get after it. Train jiu-jitsu.